Here at the Pink Grape, I interview winemakers from all over the world. Our purpose is to have fun, be entertained, discover new wines, and meet great people. I hope you will join our journey around the wine world by subscribing to my channel. If you like this video, please be sure to hit that like button, share it with a friend, and please enjoy the interview. Stefan, welcome to the show, The Pink Grape. It's a pleasure having you on.
It's quite a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Anthony. I hope you're doing well.
You're making wine currently in the state of Virginia, correct?
Pretty exciting area in which to make wine. Virginia is coming on leaps and bounds, and certainly excited to be making wine in this part of the world.
Nice. Well, yeah, I definitely want to dive into a little bit about Virginia wines, but I'd like to start with, how did you become a winemaker?
You know, I don't come from a background of wine farms and farming. So obviously, as you grow up, you have many interests. I was just lucky enough to work at a winery, which was just down the road from me, and I was studying something else. And I was working in the tasting room, and I had a chance to kind of explore other parts of the winery, working in the vineyard, working in the winery. And as such, yeah, that was sort of, I guess, the start of this career, whatever that is, you know. But at the end of the day, we're just farmers, you know. We're tending some grapes on this land, and we're just stewards of it for the next sort of 15 to 20 years until someone else can take over. But it's not a romantic story by any stretch of the imagination, but that's how we fell into it. And it was literally that, just fell into it a bit.
What is your favorite thing about being a winemaker?
Oh gosh, I think the people, to be honest with you. You know, everyone thinks you make wine in a bit of a vacuum, but the business of wine is so intriguing. Is, you know, you've got the farming aspect and the weather, you've got the science and sort of the artisanal part of making the wine. But at the end of the day, what makes it meaningful or valuable is the fact that we get to share it, you know, share it with people we love and our wine club members and consumers, some people who know a lot about wine, some people who don't. And I think that's the great thing about it. It can bridge the gap. Doesn't matter what your ethnicity, your background, your political view, whatever it is, you can share a glass of wine, you can chat. If someone is interested in wine, then, you know, that is fantastic. So I really think the people first and foremost. But I do love the farming aspect. I don't consider myself a winemaker. I consider myself more a farmer. The potential and the quality of any wine that we put forth is really subject to the farming practices. But it's really the people and the personalities behind it that really make it worthwhile at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that point, because I actually worked as a traveling winemaker, made wine in France and in Germany. And yeah, some of my favorite parts of all of that, you know, people ask me, I say, well, really, it was all the people I got to meet. Sure. You know, it's the other traveling winemakers that I got to share the harvest with and have a beer or wine with after work, or in the cellar after a long day, and you know, going out and having drinks. And, you know, it brings people together from all over the world. We actually, at our harvest in Germany, we had about a dozen people come and help with that harvest. Out of the 12, about 10 of us all came from different countries. And then to your second point, being a farmer more than a winemaker is such a good point, because we're so dependent as winemakers on what it is Mother Nature or the vineyard gives to us to then go in the winery and produce. So all starts in the vineyard, and that's why it's so important. So Virginia wines, that's something we typically don't hear too much about when it comes to American wines, right? I mean, we hear about California, we hear about New York.
You know, as you rightly say, you know, 85% of wines are made on the West Coast. So California, Oregon, and Washington, they've been, you know, arguably the benchmark of quality. And then on the East Coast, you know, New York, Finger Lakes have really come on leaps and bounds. But Virginia has the potential to make some world-class wines. You know, very interesting climate, you know, very diverse. I think the great thing, if you're a marketer, probably not, because we do so many different things very well. But the great thing is, you know, I love diversity. You're going to find incredible varietals of Pinot Noir and Merlot and Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot and blends. You're going to find Albarino and Tannat and Chardonnay. And, you know, there's something for everybody in this part of the world. But it's a young industry. You know, it's got its challenges, you know, viticulturally speaking, you know, short growing season, hot and humid, which creates an issue in getting ripe grapes. But we've attracted some really incredible talent. You know, we've got French and Italian and UC Davis and South Africans in here making wine and really propelling the industry forward. So we're young, we're new, we're experimental, we're collaborative. And I think it's just a matter of time before people really start looking at Virginia and saying, hang on a moment, these guys and girls, you know, need to be in the conversation, because these wines, I think, are world class. And obviously I'm very biased, but I think there's certain varietals that I would put up against any varietals in the world. Something like Cabernet Franc. If you think the benchmark may be Chinon or Bourgogne or Saumur Champagny, I think Virginia makes world-class, Cab Francs. I think Viognier is another varietal that does well, but it's that entrepreneurial spirit. We're forging our own way. We're allowed to be a little bit collaborative. We're allowed to be experimental. We're still figuring it out. And, the future is really onward and upward, and it's incredibly, incredibly bright. But, we do have vintage variation. We're going to have years like 18 where we got 90 inches of rain. We're going to have years like 20 where we got really extreme frosts Mother's Day weekend. So viticulturally, there are a lot of challenges to overcome. And if we go back to how grapes really determine the quality of the vintage, then, seeing that as it may, the vintages are going to be pretty varied and they're not going to be subtle. They're actually going to be quite heavily different year to year, from 19 to 20 to 21. But yeah, really enthusiastic, really excited to be in this part of the world, and the talent, viticulturally, enologically, the folks that are making wine, growing grapes in this area, the future is incredibly bright. And I think it's just a matter of time before people start really focusing on the wines that are coming out of this state.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting and interesting, and it actually makes me want to go get a bottle of Virginia wine tonight and try it. And that actually leads me into the next point, which is, could you tell us a little bit of something about your wines? And for everyone watching, I'll put a link in the description. I think I saw on your website you can sign up for your wine club. You can buy some of your wine. So, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your wine, and so people can try it out.
We want to make wines that are authentic and honest and transparent, right? So we try not to dress them up. We really need to communicate in the glass how the grape was grown. So obviously, again, we like to minimize vintage variation, but we also embrace it, because years that are a little bit lighter, a little bit greener, they might be brighter and more approachable. But we grow 12 varietals. Our biggest plantings are Viognier, Cab Franc, Cab Sav, and Petit Verdot. I think they do incredibly well. We have pretty diverse micro and mesoclimates within the area as well. I guess the philosophy, anything about Keswick is balance. That's what we always try and preach. We're not trying to make these big, robust, tannic-driven, high alcohol kind of wines. We want to make wines that are enjoyable, but wines that have a great balance between acid and fruit and tannins and alcohol. Wines that can age and show elegance and sort of layers of complexity versus just brute strength. We're not trying to make wines that do well in competitions. We want to make wines that people want to drink. We spend a lot of time farming the grapes, to the best of our ability. And when it comes into the winery behind me, we don't use a lot of new oak. We do a lot of natural fermentations. We let MLs go through naturally. We do very little fining and filtration. We really are trying to communicate the grape, especially in years where those grapes allow you to make these really sort of layered and really intriguing kind of wines. We don't dress it up with additives and overuse of oak and stuff. So very balanced, elegant wines, but obviously, year to year, there's going to be differences as well. But at the end of the day, despite those differences, hopefully as a consumer, when you come in, you start getting a thread of what we are. But we do it passionately. We do it with integrity and honestly. And the one thing is, we don't do a lot of blends. We do most of what we do is single varietal wines. That in a nutshell is us. We've been around for 20 years. Our first vintage was in 2002. So this is our 20th vintage this year.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really good. It's my wife and her dad and her family that owned it, and I'm working there right now. So it is family owned and operated. And we've been, very, very lucky to do well and, have the potential to grow and make more wine. And, we have a pretty loyal following. And I would say, again, collectively, that is true of Virginia. We're all growing and we're all very collaborative, and the industry is doing incredibly well. So we're just really excited to be part of the greater industry, but if we can make wines that communicate us and our personality in a glass versus trying to be someone else, I think that's the way to differentiate us. And the way we look at it is, the only thing that makes us unique is our vineyard. All the barrels and tanks and additives, everyone has access to. And if we can make wines that really speak to the terroir and how the grapes are grown, then we're on the right track to making wines that are at least individualistic and at least can communicate our personality authentically and honestly.
Really well said. I think you should write a book or something, because that's very, very good. And I like your point to what you said there, is that you try not to influence the wine as much as maybe some other regions may. You let the vineyard speak for your wines. And that's really, really interesting and really great, because that's what I like. And it sounds like that gives it a bit of a drinkability factor. You know, you can have your wine, it sounds like, maybe on a picnic with some family and friends, or, you know, with just a plate of cheese in the evening with a friend or something. So
we don't have the kind of grapes that have these really high alcohol levels or
Sure.
potential alcohol levels and high physiological ripeness, because we're subtropical humid, but on the Winkler system, we're only number 3. So we're a little bit more moderate climate. We have a shorter growing season. So, you know, I look at something like acidity in wine, really, really importantly, acidity, brightness, and freshness. You know, it makes the wine ageable, but it makes the wine, you know, good to drink on its own, because we always say we try not to make food friendly wines, meaning that we don't want to make wines that require food to become drinkable. We want to make wines that, you know, you come home from work, you sit on the deck and you can open up a bottle of wine and just enjoy it. It has the ability to pair with foods as well. You know, so when we make a Viognier, do we look and try wines from Condrieu or Chateaubriand or the Northern Rhone or California? Of course we do. We want to see what other people are doing with it, but we don't want to make wines that are Californian in style or are French in style. We have to make wines that are Virginian.
I'd like to end with one thing, and I ask this question to all winemakers, and we do touch on this throughout the interview, but in summary, what is your favorite thing about wine?
The favorite thing, I guess, is if you take out sort of the sharing and the caring and actually spending and doing around with people, which is the most important thing. The fact is we get to do it every year. And for me, I might have 20, 25 more chances to make the perfect wine. What is the perfect wine? I'm not sure. I don't think we'll ever make the perfect wine. And at the end of the day, it's once you've made it and you said, if you can share wine and, you know, do that, drink what you like, how you like, when you like, but make sure you're with someone when you're drinking wine. You know, I think that's what makes it the most important. So we'll worry about how we make it. You know, if you're a consumer, just, you know, celebrate being alive, celebrate getting out of bed, celebrate being on top of the ground versus under the ground right now. You know, Monday's a special occasion. There's always another bottle. There's always another vintage. So share it with someone you care about and someone you want to be with. And I think that's the way forward.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And it's, you know, it's an art, it's a science. And like you said, you know, you may have been making wine for 20 years, your winery there, but that really means you've made wine 20 times. Well, Stefan, we really do appreciate speaking with you, learning about Virginia wines, your winery. And like I said, we will put the link in the description below and share it throughout our social media so people can go to your website and try your wine.
Very much appreciate it. Anthony, I wish you the best for the year and good luck with the pink grape and wherever the future may take you.
I hope you enjoyed this week's interview with a winemaker. Be sure to tune in next week as I'll be interviewing another winemaker. I hope you will join our journey around the wine world by subscribing to this channel. Be sure to like this video and share it with a friend. We'll see you next week. Thank you.